Good morning. Well, a tough night for investors. We did see the European markets, most of their indices down around 2% at the end of trade. The US markets at one stage, the Dow down by 500 points and the Nasdaq down around 2.8%. But by the end of trade, make a little bit of a comeback. The reason for the falls, yet again, the trade wars globally. We do know that the tit for tat between the US and China is ongoing. We also know that there is a fair bit of pain coming in because of new regulations and tariffs that are being imposed from the European Union and also the US onto the European Union. And overnight we saw this being highlighted, an article that was printed over the weekend saying that Trump White House is now looking at imposing a level onto any investment of the US technology companies from China. Now overnight we had the Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin coming through and saying that this is wrong, that trade negotiations and any tariffs or limitations would be imposed on all countries. That created a bit of concern. Then we had Navarro, one of the major trade ministers, coming through in the US late in the trading day and saying no, at the moment they are not looking at imposing any limitations, and if they do, it will only be looking at the negotiations and the holdings in the technology stocks against China. So really mixed messages coming through from the White House, creating a lot of this concern overnight. By the end of trade, we had the Dow down by 328 points, or a 1.3% slide. The broader S&P 500 down around 37 points, or a 1.3% slide as well. And the Nasdaq down 160 points, just over a 2% slide. It really was those technology stocks that got hit the hardest overnight. We also had falls coming through in the major steel manufacturers in the US. The banks and the insurers were lower. We also saw the broad-based technology and also telecommunication stocks losing ground. If we look at some of the standout stocks, GE, its last day that it'll be included in the Dow, will be removed as of tomorrow, the first time it won't be on that index since 1907, and the share price down around 1.6%, even though the company came through overnight and said they were divesting as planned. One of their industrial engine companies, they're said to be able to raise around $3.25 billion on this deal. We also had Harley-Davidson coming out and saying these new EU tariffs is causing major problems for their business, pushing up their costs of doing business, and the share price down around 6%. Having a look at the commodities, well, there was really no flight to safety into these commodities overnight. We did see a little bit of a fall in the last 20 minutes of trade in the gold price. Gold's down around $3 an ounce to $1,267 an ounce, and the oil price down nearly 1% to $68 a barrel. The volatility index moved higher, not too much movement coming into the 10-year bond yields in the US, but we also saw the flight to safety was really won by the Japanese yen overnight. So we did see a little bit of pressure coming into the Aussie. If we have a look at the Australian markets after that near 15-point slide yesterday, mainly driven by news coming through from our major banks and weakness in that finance sector, we're expecting a 60-point slide at the start of trade today. For us, we had some good news in the form of the iron ore price regaining a little bit of momentum, now at $64.60 US a dry tonne, and the Aussie dollar at the moment still above that 74 US cent mark, but only just.